All right. I hopefully we are recording. I had a little bit of trouble recording earlier, so hopefully we're going now. I see the record button. So here we go. Team three. You guys had the baby boomers, millennials, and skills gap. Timothy reached out to me and said that you guys wanted a little bit more feedback, and I'm glad that you guys reached out regarding your content. So, specifically, your content's great. I'm going to break down a few things for you here in just a little bit. I didn't want to double subtract points. I had already said something in the under the writing style and taken off a point for the format of the citations, and then of course the point for the missing executive summary. But on the description of the on the rubric for the report content, I definitely felt like your purpose for the report was very clear. I felt like it had sufficient data. And I know that you have to still go back and put in some of those citations, but as long as that was taken care of, and like I said, I'd already subtracted a point for that, so I didn't want to double do that. But I do feel like that your evidence was sufficient. I think that the paper overall achieves exactly what it set out to do, which is to really contrast those two age groups and show the reader the difference and how we can kind of, with that understanding of the difference, pull and glean the best out of both, and then where you ended up with your recommendation. So I felt like the content was great, so that's why you had the 5 out of 5. But I will point out a few specific things for you guys, and mostly just accolades and things that I really enjoyed about the paper. So again, there's the comment for the missing executive summary. That's just a 1 to 2 paragraph summary of the overall paper. It does need to be on a page on its own. And then a comment here about the citations needed to be in APA format. I wanted to point out that I feel like you guys did a really great job uh, drawing a contrast, and you do that immediately here with the introduction. You kind of lead the audience into this is kind of what we're going to be talking about, and immediately you start with showing the difference between the millennials and the baby boomers. So I really like that, and I also like that you did a good job kind of setting up and kind of giving a look forward at what you were going to be accomplishing in the paper with explaining the issue. You didn't delve too deep into it in the introduction, but you kind of just set up, here's what we're going to be looking at. So I really like that. Um, and be careful of the fragments. There were just a couple. I didn't take off any grammar mechanics points, but I do think that you need to go back and try to fix those specific fragments. I liked in the background that you gave, again, which is part of report content, which is why I gave you those full marks. I do think you gave good evidence. You did a good job explaining not just statistically what millennials and what baby boomers were. You gave those specifics so that the audience had a really broad picture of them, but you also talked about their traits. So you said, okay, here's the science of it all. This is the years that they span from. This is a little bit about their characteristics and what those entail. So I really love that you did that and you set those. And then I at first I was like, well, maybe they don't need this paragraph here with Generation X and Z, but I actually like that you kind of mentioned them, and then it kind of gave you again another contrasting point, like just to emphasize, there are other generations obviously that are out there and in the workforce, but you just reminded the audience that's not who we're focusing in on right now. We're focusing in on the millennials and we're focusing in on the baby boomers. So I really like that. I also liked, I don't, for a lot of groups, suggest that they kind of branch out from those basic headings that we set up for the paper. But I kind of like that you guys did that. Like here, understanding the problem. I think it helped with the readability, and I really love the specific point that you made here at the beginning about the retainment of millennials. I know that there are some people that feel like that it's a good attribute to want to always do better, move forward, be excited about moving up or moving, into something that excites you a little bit more as far as your career field. But it does need to be looked at as a problem with retainment and with keeping someone there. And I love that you mentioned that and pointed that out. And I also like that you kind of did the same thing there for the boomers, and you weren't afraid to point out, these characteristics and these things that are happening in the job field that kind of causes stigma, if you would, and because that is part of the problem. And then you moved on to, I was making sure, just again, a couple places that I thought you might would want to stick an extra citation in just to be safe. Um, and I love that you moved on how to address the issue, and then went on and continued to, now that we've kind of set up the problem for you, let's talk about how we're going to actually move forward in handling that situation and handling that problem. So we've set up all this background for you, kind of, now we're moving through the discussion about this. So I love that, like I said, that you guys were able to use different headings, but that aided in the readability. That definitely did not detract from the readability of the report. And let me think, what else did I want? We moved on to more desirable traits. Um, and then, which I loved, because now you're setting up, this is where it kind of boils down to, as an employer, what is my job? What is it that I'm really having to look for? So now we've set up all this great information for our reader regarding, the pros and cons of these boomers and millennials, and kind of pointed out their good points and their bad points. But really, what does that mean? This is why I'm bringing this research forward. What does that mean for someone trying to hire? What does that mean for an employer? So I like that you went through and did a breakdown of the traits and the traits that they're looking for. And then, of course, your conclusion and your recommendation, and getting to the point that, this is difficult. This is something that we're dealing with. This is something that we're moving forward through. But here's some things that you really want to think about. And I love the fact that you said it doesn't just stop with the hiring process, right? It doesn't just stop there. You've got to be thinking not just about picking the right person and making sure we're filling these gaps, but it's about working through afterwards and keeping them, uh, keeping something consistent, in the workplace, so that those gaps are diminished even after that hiring process. So I really like that. So hopefully this helps, and I've pointed out a few things for you. The biggest thing that I feel like you guys needed to go back is add that executive summary. And honestly, once you go back and put those citations in and put them in correctly, this is a really great paper. There's no sense in not getting. I mean, it's great. It's an awesome. It's going to be a great grade. The content, I feel like, is great, which is why I put the 5 out of 5. I feel like there's not much that you need to really clean up with that. Just work on those citations, fix those few fragments, and add that executive summary. Hopefully this helped. I hope I didn't go on and on for too long, but you guys wrote a really great paper, and I'm glad that you reached out for more comments.